Welcome back, folks. This is your retirement professor, Dan Oweiler, with this segment of Safe Money Retirement. Glad to have you join us today. I know in the past we've talked about a lot of different things regarding investment and risks and things like that. I want to talk to you today about the 4 asset buckets that we have in our overall estate. These are assets that fall into one of these 4 buckets, and each of these buckets will be passed on to our heirs in a different way depending upon how they're set up. So let's get started and we'll talk about that. The first bucket is what I call our taxable income bucket, and it's also estate taxable, meaning that if our estate is large enough, there will be some estate taxes. Now, some of the things that are commonly in this are our investments, things like our stocks, our bonds, CDs or things along that line, real estate. All of these things generate taxable income to us. And so that can be taxable to us on our tax returns. Our estate tax, if our estate is large enough, these will be taxed and be taxed with a minimum of 40% on our estate taxes. So our first bucket number 1, is taxable on our income and taxable on our estate. The second bucket is what I call our tax deferred income, but also they could be estate taxable, again, depending upon the size of our estate. Okay? Now, tax in this bucket number 2 would be things like our IRAs, because our IRAs are tax deferred, 401k plans, deferred annuities. All of these things generate tax deferred interest to us. We don't have to claim them on our tax return every year until we take that interest out or we have required minimum distributions. Okay? It's tax deferred income, but it's still included in our estate to determine whether or not we're going to be paying any estate taxes on that. The third bucket is what we call our tax-free income, but could still be included in our estate for estate tax purposes. Okay? Now, what can those things? Well, the most common thing that we think of are muni bonds. Okay? Muni bonds provide us muni bonds. Those provide us tax-free income, but they are included in our estate for tax estate purposes. The second one would be a Roth IRA. Again, Roth IRAs provide us tax-free income, and they're included in our estate if we pass those on to our heirs and don't set them up properly. And the third thing would be life insurance. If we own life insurance and we're the owner of that contract and that life insurance proceeds are passed on to our estate, either in our family trust or whatever it might be, that life insurance can also provide tax-free income to us, but those assets will be included in our taxable estate to determine whether or not we have any estate taxes. And then the final bucket is what I call the tax-free income. And the estate tax-free distribution. Now, what could give us tax-free income as well as providing a cushion or an exemption for our estate tax purposes? Well, things like charitable trusts, or irrevocable trusts that are actually taken out of our estate. Okay, those are trusts that we set up to take those assets out of our estate, maybe provide us tax-free income because we're giving them to charity or whatever it might be. And the other thing can also be life insurance. If we set up the life insurance in an irrevocable life insurance trust, that will take those assets out of our estate, and it will be tax-free because we're actually limiting the amount that we're going to be chosen included in our estate. So this year we have an estate tax exemption of about $5.34 million. That means that if your estate is over $5.3 million, you're going to have some estate taxes that are passed on to the heirs. If you're married, that would double because you have two spouses that could be passing on $5.3 million, so it could be $10 million plus that can be passed on to your heirs. So perhaps depending upon how much assets you have, maybe none of these taxable estates will come into play. As I plan with people, what I have found is the more assets and the larger our estate is, the more we want to move to the right. We want to move our assets to the right, the more assets that we have. If we have a large amount of money and we can move from taxable income to tax-deferred income, then that's just going to help us on our income taxes. If we have even more and we can move into tax-free income through muni bonds, Roth IRAs, or life insurance, that's even better because it's tax-free income and not tax-deferred. And finally, obviously, if we can take a portion of our assets, if we have enough assets to live on, we don't need an excess portion, we can move those into a irrevocable life insurance trust or whatever it might be, a charitable trust that provides tax-free income as well as estate tax-free. Then we've been able to do some proper estate planning and tax planning for our needs. And so the more money that we have, the more we want to move into buckets number 2, 3, and 4, okay? Because we want to be able to take advantage of the state and tax laws that are available to us. Hopefully this has kind of pointed out some things to us. If we have a lot of money here in bucket number 1, the least we want to do is maybe move some of our assets into bucket number 2 so our taxable income will go down in value, or will go down and we won't be paying as much in taxes. But that's in the planning process. If you'd like to sit down and talk about your own situation, we're happy to sit down on a complimentary basis. Give us a call. Our number is there on the screen. We'd be happy to sit down and do some planning with you. Hope you have a good day and happy retirement.
When you have confidence in your retirement future, you can live the life you've always imagined. Because of planning, you now have time to reflect on the wonderful memories of your life. You and your spouse finally have the luxury of leisure time together. To spend fun times with your grandkids, sharing the joy of their excitement about life. Smiling at the thought of quality time with your children and of picking up the check. At last, you have time to breathe and rekindle the love of your life. Why? Because you imagined what could be. You planned for retirement. So today, you own your future.